Looking at these images, what aircraft springs to mind?
For me, it's immediately the Soviet MiG-25 Foxbat, or perhaps the cutting-edge American F-15.
But you're looking at the North American A-5 Vigilante, an absolute masterpiece conceived way back in the 1950s. It's almost unbelievable that such a seemingly perfect design, with its sleek, swept lines, existed in that era. It looks startlingly modern, yet radiates an almost insane sense of power and blistering speed. But the A-5's lethal beauty concealed a story of ambition, failure, and perilous adaptation. Born to be the ultimate nuclear bomber launched from aircraft carriers, its unique yet flawed weapons system doomed its original role. Fate decreed a different mission for the Vigilante, one even more dangerous. As the RA-5C, it plunged into the fiery skies of Vietnam, becoming an indispensable high-speed reconnaissance eye. Its mission? Photograph targets before the strike and then, cruelly, return immediately afterward to assess the damage, right through the enemy's dense anti-aircraft fire. It flew beautifully, true to its looks, but the price was steep. Many of these beautiful A-5s and their courageous crews never returned. So, was the A-5 Vigilante a misunderstood genius, a tragic beauty, or simply a design ahead of its time, ill-suited for the war it was thrust into? Today, join us as we explore the dramatic story of the North American A-5 Vigilante, one of the most visually striking jet aircraft ever built. We'll begin with its ambitious origins. The birth of a supersonic giant. The Vigilante emerged during the tense Cold War era between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations sought to demonstrate their technological prowess through advances in military aircraft. Amidst this backdrop was North American aviation's drive to create something truly extraordinary. A carrier-borne attack aircraft capable of speeds previously unseen in naval aviation. The company dedicated 1954 to exploring concepts for a long-range, all-weather, carrier-based attack bomber capable of supersonic speeds while carrying a substantial payload. North American Aviation's Columbus Division spearheaded this groundbreaking project, assigning their top engineers. The company had built its reputation on iconic World War II aircraft, such as the P-51 Mustang fighter and the B-25 Mitchell medium bomber. However, developing a Mach 2, nuclear-capable bomber for carrier operations pushed the boundaries of engineering. Impressed by the proposal, the Navy awarded North American Aviation an initial design contract in July 1955, which included the construction of a mock-up. This was followed by a contract in September 1956 for the construction of 2 flyable prototypes. The first prototype, designated A-3J-1 Vigilante, rolled out on May 16, 1958, and made its maiden flight on August 31, 1958, with North American's chief test pilot Dick Wenzel at the controls. The second prototype first flew in November 1958. This aircraft was lost on June 3, 1959, due to hydraulic and electrical system failure, but testing continued successfully despite this setback. Carrier suitability trials commenced in July 1960, and the Navy set several speed and altitude records with the aircraft, partly to demonstrate its capabilities to Congress. The A-5 Vigilante officially entered service with the Navy in June 1961. Its designation was changed from A-3J to A-5A in 1962, as part of the Department of Defense's move to standardize aircraft designations across all military branches. The A-5 Vigilante's revolutionary design. The A-5 Vigilante showcased engineering excellence through its revolutionary internal systems, making it a true marvel of the supersonic age. It was one of the largest and most complex aircraft ever to operate from a United States Navy aircraft carrier. Its high-mounted swept-wing design, coupled with its boundary layer control system, represented a leap forward in naval aviation technology. The high-mounted swept wings aided the aircraft in achieving high speeds and stability during supersonic flight. The boundary layer control system, in particular, brought significant benefits to the A-5. The boundary layer is a very thin layer of air flowing right next to the aircraft's surface, like the wings. This air layer is slowed down by friction with the surface. When the aircraft flies slowly, especially when preparing to land, or at a high angle of attack, with the nose pointed up significantly relative to the flight path, this boundary layer tends to lose energy, become turbulent and separate from the wing surface, particularly on the aft sections or control surfaces like flaps. This separation drastically reduces lift and sharply increases drag, leading to a stall where the aircraft loses its ability to fly. The A-5 was born to perform two seemingly contradictory missions. First, fly extremely fast. To reach twice the speed of sound, engineers had to give the A-5 very special wings, thin and sharply swept back. This wing type glides wonderfully at high speeds, but is very inefficient at generating lift when flying slowly. Second, land on an aircraft carrier. Carriers have extremely short runways. To land safely, the aircraft must fly as slowly as possible while still generating enough lift to avoid falling. This was the core conflict. The perfect wing for Mach 2 was terrible for slow-speed landings. Making the wing larger and thicker for better landings would turn it into a giant air brake, hindering the aircraft's ability to fly fast. And the boundary layer control system was an excellent solution to overcome this. This system was like breathing life into the wings. It used hot air from the engine blown onto the wing surfaces, especially when the flaps were lowered for landing. This helped the air cling more tightly to the wing, preventing it from slipping away and losing lift. Thanks to boundary layer control, the A-5's inefficient low-speed wings could generate much more lift, allowing it to land on carriers, albeit still at very high and challenging speeds. In other words, boundary layer control was the key technology enabling this supersonic aircraft to operate from carriers. So, how did this clever boundary layer control system actually work on the A-5? Quite simply, it borrowed some extremely hot, high-pressure air directly from the powerful J-79 jet engines, what engineers call bleed air. This superheated air was then routed through a complex network of pipes hidden inside the wings. Finally, it was blown out through narrow slots located at two critical positions. First, along the leading edge of the wing, helping the airflow hug the wing better when the aircraft was at a high angle of attack. Second, and most importantly, it was blown over the upper surface of the trailing edge flaps when they were lowered for landing. Imagine this like blowing a strong gust of wind onto the lazy layer of air flowing over the lowered flap. This hot air blast re-energized the boundary layer, preventing it from separating from the wing surface. As a result, pilots could lower the flaps to a much greater angle than usual without risking a stall. The outcome: significantly increased lift, something vitally important for those challenging carrier landings. Although the concept of boundary layer control wasn't entirely new, the A-5 Vigilante was one of the first operational aircraft, and notably one of the first carrier-based jets, to employ such an active and complex boundary layer control system. It wasn't just a minor improvement. It was an enabling technology, the decisive factor that turned the idea of a carrier-based supersonic bomber/reconnaissance aircraft into reality. Without effective boundary layer control, landing the high-speed Vigilante on deck would likely have been extremely dangerous, perhaps even impossible. This system demonstrated the remarkable ingenuity of the engineers in finding a way to reconcile the fundamental conflict between supersonic flight requirements and low-speed carrier landings. Furthermore, the experience gained from the A-5's boundary layer control system, both its successes and significant maintenance challenges, paved the way for the development of more advanced high-lift systems on later generations of high-performance aircraft. And yes, it was precisely this complex system, with its network of high-pressure hot air ducts and control valves, that was a major reason why the A-5 earned a reputation as a complex machine, requiring constant and costly maintenance. Two General Electric J-79 GE8 afterburning turbojet engines powered the A-5 Vigilante. Each engine produced 10,900 pounds of thrust on dry power and 17,000 pounds with afterburners engaged. The A-5 model got better J7910 engines that delivered even more afterburning thrust at 17,900 pounds each. These engines pushed the A-5 to a maximum speed of Mach 2.0 at 40,000 feet. This made it one of the fastest carrier-based aircraft of its time. The Vigilante flew at altitudes from sea level to above 50,000 feet and had a service ceiling of 52,100 feet. North American Aviation used full variable wedge-type side air intakes to manage supersonic airflow, a first for an operational supersonic bomber. These intakes slowed incoming supersonic air to subsonic speeds, which helped the engines stay efficient at any speed. High-speed heat buildup needed advanced solutions, so engineers used titanium panels and nitrogen instead of hydraulic fluids in the hottest areas. The Vigilante packed remarkably advanced electronic systems for its time. The aircraft featured one of the first fly-by-wire systems on an operational aircraft and included mechanical/hydraulic backup for safety. The versatile digital analyzer was the brain of the A-5's electronics, one of the first solid-state digital computer systems in any aircraft. This innovative computer controlled the complex NASB-12 navigation/attack system, which included a multi-mode radar with a pivoting nose radome for service access, one of the first head-up displays, called the pilot's projected display indicator, a television camera under the nose for daylight target sighting, a radar-equipped inertial navigation system based on technologies developed for the Navajo missile. Aviation historians Gunston and Gilchrist noted that the A-5 Vigilante became the first bomber to use a digital computer. This advanced technology helped the two-man crew, pilot in front and reconnaissance attack navigator in rear, work effectively in complex mission environments. The controversial bomb bay. The A-5 Vigilante packed several groundbreaking features. Its unique linear bomb bay system stands out as the most unusual and controversial design element. This system seemed like a clever solution for supersonic weapons delivery, but ended up becoming the aircraft's Achilles heel. The linear bomb bay was a long cylindrical tunnel nestled between the Vigilante's twin engines in the rear fuselage. Traditional aircraft used bomb bay doors that opened downward. This radical design let weapons shoot out backward through an opening between the jet exhausts. The designers saw several clear advantages with this approach. No heavy bomb bay doors meant less weight and simpler design. Better aerodynamics during bombing runs without doors opening. Weapons could be delivered at supersonic speeds without hurting performance. Better accuracy in nuclear strike missions looked promising. The system worked in a sophisticated way. A nuclear weapon, usually a Mk-28 bomb, sat at the front of the bay. It connected firmly to two 275-gallon fuel tanks in what engineers called a stores train assembly. The back of the last fuel tank had extendable fins that helped keep things stable after release. The tanks would empty their fuel as the mission progressed. When the aircraft reached its target, a solid fuel cartridge pushed the whole assembly backward at about 50 feet per second compared to the aircraft's speed. These empty fuel tanks then helped keep the weapon stable as it fell toward the target. The linear bomb bay's clever design created major headaches during actual flights. The biggest problem came from drafting. The ejected payload got stuck in the low-pressure zone behind the aircraft. Instead of dropping away cleanly, the bomb and fuel tanks would trail behind the Vigilante for miles. This drafting effect made accurate weapon delivery almost impossible. One aviation expert explained it this way. When a weapon was released, it went into this low-pressure area and got sucked along behind the aircraft. This makes the delivery sufficiently inaccurate that it's a problem even with a 2-megaton thermonuclear weapon. Safety risks also emerged. On at least 3 documented occasions, carrier catapult launches jarred the fuel canisters loose onto the deck. One such incident led to an aircraft's loss. These accidents could have turned catastrophic if nuclear weapons had been involved instead of fuel tanks. The system needed constant attention. The A-5 Vigilante became known as a hangar queen. It spent too much time in maintenance, mostly because of its advanced but unreliable systems. The linear bomb bay caused most troubles. The Navy dropped the linear bomb bay concept soon after the A-5 entered service in 1961. The system's reliability issues proved too much to fix, even after extensive testing and changes. The bay ended up storing extra fuel instead of nuclear weapons. Strategic changes also pushed this decision. The Navy started moving its nuclear deterrence strategy towards submarine-launched ballistic missiles. These offered better survival odds and strike capabilities than carrier-based aircraft. The Vigilante's bombing role became less important. The Vigilante found new life through transformation. After shedding its bomber role, it was converted into the A-5 reconnaissance version. Its impressive speed and high-altitude capabilities shone in this new capacity. The former bomb bay space now housed reconnaissance equipment and auxiliary fuel tanks, establishing the Vigilante as the Navy's premier high-flying reconnaissance aircraft. From hunter to scout, the A-5 Vigilante's career as a nuclear bomber came to an unexpected end in 1963. The aircraft went through a complete transformation that would reshape its place in naval aviation history. A radical shift in United States nuclear strategy rendered the Navy's strategic nuclear bombing role obsolete, and the A-5's original mission lost its purpose. The Navy urgently needed a capable long-range reconnaissance platform, and the A-5 could fulfill that need. Converting the bomber into a reconnaissance aircraft needed major changes. Engineers added a long canoe-shaped fairing under the fuselage to house advanced multi-sensor reconnaissance equipment. This unique modification contained a PD-7 side-looking airborne radar, a S-21 infrared line scanner, multiple camera systems, improved electronic countermeasures equipment. The controversial linear bomb bay found new life as storage for 3 fuel tanks, and one tank position could hold an ECM package instead. Engineers installed 2 wing-mounted, high-intensity strobe flashes to light up ground targets during night missions. The A-5 reconnaissance model weighed nearly 5 tons more than its strike predecessor. The aircraft managed to keep impressive speed in level flight, though its acceleration and climb rate decreased. This happened even with almost identical thrust and only slightly larger wings. The A-5 proved its worth in the new role quickly. It could record reconnaissance information on magnetic tape instantly, and the carrier's integrated operational intelligence center processed this data along with exposed film right after landing. The system's biggest advantages were its ability to handle huge amounts of data and process it at unprecedented speeds. North American Aviation built 91 new A-5 aircraft and converted 43 existing A-5A bombers to reconnaissance configuration between 1963 and 1970. This change ended up being more successful than the original bombing role. The A-5 became the definitive Vigilante and left its mark throughout the war in Vietnam. The A-5 Advanced Reconnaissance Suite. The Westinghouse and a PD-7 side-looking airborne radar system was the heart of the A-5 intelligence gathering capabilities. This advanced radar sent pulses perpendicular to the aircraft's flight path and captured terrain features in any weather condition, day or night. The system recorded radar returns on long film strips and created detailed images of large areas with just one pass. The side-looking airborne radar sat in a distinctive canoe-shaped fairing under the fuselage. This groundbreaking system let naval commanders get detailed intelligence about enemy positions without visual confirmation. It became crucial for mapping territory, finding camouflaged installations, and spotting potential targets hidden by jungle cover or darkness. The A-5's impressive optical systems complemented its radar capabilities. The AENA S-21 infrared line scanner had a 140-degree field of view and could spot heat signatures. It found hidden vehicles, recently used roads, and thermal targets the human eye couldn't see. The system created continuous film strips that showed temperature differences across the terrain. The camera package included KA-51A-B forward-looking oblique angle cameras, KA-50A, KA-51A, or KA-62A vertical cameras, KA-58A panoramic cameras for medium/high-altitude work, KA-57A panoramic cameras for low-altitude missions, 3-inch and 18-inch horizon-to-horizon panoramic scanning cameras. The aircraft used electronic strobe flash pods under its wings to light up targets during night operations. A low-light television camera under the nose later added more visual reconnaissance capability in dark conditions. The AENA LQ-61 electronic intelligence system stood out as the most sophisticated equipment. This passive collection system detected, identified, and recorded enemy radar emissions throughout the battlefield. It automatically captured frequency, pulse patterns, and exact coordinates of radar sites, vital information for planning future strike missions. The system stored lint data on magnetic tape and could record 112 minutes of continuous observation. The RA-5C could map entire air defense networks without direct engagement. The aircraft also used extensive electronic countermeasures that helped it survive in hostile airspace. The true innovation lay in how these systems work together. The digital data system added critical metadata like altitude, location, and time directly to each exposure. This gave intelligence analysts precisely geo-referenced information. After landing, the carrier's integrated operational intelligence center quickly processed all collected data. Raw surveillance turned into applicable information that shaped the entire air campaign. Eyes in the sky. The RA-5C Vigilante in Vietnam. The RA-5C Vigilante made its first appearance over Vietnam in August 1964. This marked the beginning of what would become one of the most perilous missions of the conflict. 8 out of 10 Vigilante squadrons ended up deploying to Southeast Asia and made 31 combat deployments throughout the war. RA-5C crews faced extraordinary dangers while flying reconnaissance missions at medium altitudes over North Vietnam. Their missions included mapping both North and South Vietnam, seeking targets, and performing significant post-strike reconnaissance. North Vietnamese gunners predicted the arrival of reconnaissance aircraft after bombing raids. This made post-strike missions particularly hazardous. The RA-5C maintained high speeds with full afterburner and stayed above Mach 1 over enemy territory. Crews employed oblique cameras and other sensors at altitudes between 7,000 to 8,000 feet to gather intelligence without direct target overflight. These missions collected data on North Vietnamese troop movements, defenses, and infrastructure. The RA-5C proved to be a great way to get intelligence throughout the conflict. A remarkable event occurred on March 1, 1971, when a Vigilante crew's cameras captured an S-2 surface-to-air missile passing just 104 feet below their aircraft. Each photograph contained precise latitude and longitude coordinates that pinpointed target locations accurately. The Vigilante's advanced sensors were vital for monitoring the infamous Ho Chi Minh Trail. The images helped curb supplies moving from North to South Vietnam. The carrier's intelligence center processed all reconnaissance information quickly from magnetic tape recordings and exposed film. Despite their notable contributions, these beautiful RA-5 Citicus suffered the highest loss rate among Navy aircraft in Vietnam. 8 reconnaissance attack, heavy, squadrons were deployed to Southeast Asia 31 times with the carriers of Task Force 77. These units initially started with 6 aircraft each. Their numbers dwindled to 5, then 4, and eventually just 3 aircraft as losses mounted. The losses were unprecedented. The Navy lost 78 of the 156 Vigilantes built for various reasons. The human cost was immense. Only 9 of the 36 crews shot down were recovered safely. The others were killed or became prisoners of war. Among them was United States Navy Captain Gerald Coffey, whose RA-5C was shot down during a reconnaissance mission over North Vietnam on February 3, 1966. He spent the remainder of the war as a prisoner of war. His experiences are detailed in his book, Beyond Survival. The final years of the Vigilante. The Vigilante fleet's distinguished service in Vietnam gave way to mounting challenges that ended up forcing its retirement from naval aviation. The mid-1970s marked the beginning of this once revolutionary aircraft's decline, closing a significant chapter in naval reconnaissance. The A-5 Vigilante proved too expensive and complex to operate, whatever its useful service record. The aircraft stayed maintenance-intensive throughout its career, even after engineers solved most reliability issues. Its remarkable systems that made it special also made it tough to maintain, a constant headache for naval aviation budgets after Vietnam. Carriers faced space problems as the Vigilante took up too much precious flight deck and hangar space on both conventional and nuclear-powered ships. Space became a bigger issue when carrier air wings grew to 90 aircraft, with the F-14 Tomcat and S-3 Viking joining the fleet. The Navy started reducing reconnaissance attack heavy squadrons in 1974 because of these constraints. Fighters took over the RA-5 CTKS carrier-based reconnaissance role after Vietnam. The RF-8G Crusader, with its internal cameras, had already served in 2 light photographic squadrons since the early 1960s. The Marine Corps also deployed their VMFP-3 squadron on carriers with RF-4B Phantom II aircraft. The F-14 Tomcat, equipped with the multi-sensor tactical airborne reconnaissance pod system, became the new standard. This change showed the Navy's preference for fighters that could handle reconnaissance duties when needed, which gave them more flexibility than single-purpose aircraft. Reconnaissance attack, heavy, 7's aircraft 156,608 made the final RA-5C flight from Naval Air Station Key West, Florida, on November 20, 1979. The Navy disbanded Reconnaissance Attack Wing 1 in January 1980. Aviation enthusiasts can now see surviving vigilantes at several locations. These include the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida, the Intrepid Air Sea Space Museum in New York City, the Pima Air Museum in Arizona, and the Naval Air Test Evaluation Center Museum at Patuxent River, Maryland. More examples remain at Sanford, Florida Airport, and the former Subic Bay Naval Base in the Philippines. While some of the A-5's design features remain controversial, such as its infamous linear bomb bay system, there's surely no denying that it was a stunningly beautiful aircraft. Do you agree? And if you were ranking the most beautiful jet aircraft, where would the A-5 Vigilante place on your list? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.